Welcome to another episode of Real Estate, Real Life, Real Talk, Real Live with your host, myself, Damon J. Brockenberry, and the Real Secrets of Money. Today is Friday, March 20th, 2026, and I want to thank each and every one of you all for joining me today. Please, if you're not following me on all social media platforms, please make sure that you do so. You can click on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Threads, Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and it's hashtag Damon the Agent on all of them, except on Pinterest, it's Agent Damon. I welcome you all, and as you all know, I like to always jump into the wonderful world of real estate. So today, I want to talk about who qualifies for first-time home buyer programs. Who actually qualifies? Because believe it or not, everyone does not qualify for first-time homebuyer programs. Um, Today in 2026, the guidelines are totally different than they were, let's say, in 2010 or 2015 or 2005 or any time before then. Previously, whenever there were programs, they were based off of first come, first service. You know, that's who got the funds. But over time, there had been a discrepancy with doing that because let's say hypothetically there was a mom who had two or three kids and she had to make arrangements before she can attend any of the classes, and then by the time she make arrangements, the funds were gone. And let's say somebody else who didn't have any kids, they were able to take the classes right away, but then they found out income differential with people, so the ones who really needed it did not always get it. Now, a lot of times people are unaware that programs are always based off location, location, location first. Okay, just like real estate is. It's based off location. And then once it's based off location, the next thing that happens with programs is based off of income. There's an income restriction on there's an income restriction on many homes and everything. I mean, there's income restriction on people when they're getting program funds. And people don't seem to always understand it. They just think like, oh, why can't I qualify for the program? And again, they had to put these restrictions in line in order to better serve those who really need it. Like hypothetically, everybody wants free money, of course. But realistically is people who earn more money are in a better place to finance themselves than people who earn less money. And that's what the programs have designed now. Now, in the DMV area, we're in a tri-state area, especially where I'm at. I'm in a tri-state area, the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. And there are different programs for different, depending on where you're purchasing. Where you're purchasing, not where you live, not where you work, not where your license is held at. It's where you're purchasing. For example, in DC have several programs. They have a DC Open Doors programs. They have an HPAC program, which means Housing Purchase Assistant Program, and they have a Workforce Assistant Program. Now in Maryland, they always have several programs every year. In Maryland always is having programs, and right now in Virginia has a program in the city of Alexandria, but throughout the whole state it varies. And down in the Richmond area, they also have several programs. Now, what I want to do is just talk about some of the things that the programs deal with and how they are handled. Now, who qualifies for it? If you have not owned a home within the past 3 years, you qualify for a program. If you recently sold a home 2 years ago, 1 year ago, you're not going to qualify for a first-time home buyer program. But if it is anywhere was 3+ years where you have last owned a home, you qualify for the program. Also, you qualify depending on what area you live in. Like I said, location is critical as far as programs are concerned. Now they have down payment assistance, they have grants, they have special programs. Of course, if you're a veteran, you don't pay any money down. If you're in Prince George's County in Maryland, they have programs that assist up to $50,000. Most lenders are aware of this. They do have that going on right now because I am working with several buyers who are taking advantage of these programs. Now, like I said, in DC, if you are looking to purchase in DC, they do have HPAC, but here's the thing about HPAC. HPAC is normally flooded, okay? And HPAC money normally runs out at the end of the summer, beginning of fall. So anywhere between August and October, those funds are gone. So if you're looking to purchase in DC, you need to be hopping on it right now, because you do have to take a program, you know what I'm saying, a class. And that's another thing. With all these programs come classes with some of them and certification, because they want to make sure that you, being a first-time home buyer, that you understand that it's not as just simple as when you're renting an apartment. You have to really understand. Now, again, like I mentioned before, there are income restrictions when it pertains to purchasing and when it pertains to utilizing these programs. If you are one person and you earn over $69,000, over just you alone, you will not qualify for most programs. I'm going to tell you right now. The reason being is programs are designed to specifically help those who need money. I know you might say, oh, I need the money, because I had a client years ago who earned over 100,000. She had no kids and she wanted the program, but unfortunately she did not qualify. And she said, well, how can they determine what I need? And I told her they assume that because you earn that amount of money, that you have saved some money and that you're good with handling your money and stuff. But unfortunately, reality is the more money people earn, the more they spend. And sometimes it's not really always based about how much a person earns, but how disciplined they are. Because I also recall having a young man who earned like $40,000 a year, and he had money saved up. His credit was excellent, and he was in a great position to buy, compared to that lady who earned over six figures, had no money saved up. She wasn't in a position to buy. But I'm just saying all that again. If you earn over $69,000 as one individual, you will not qualify for most programs in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Now, they do base it off household. So if you're a married couple, if you have kids and everything, they look at the number of people in the household. So if you're one person, and let's say hypothetically you have 3 or 4 kids, you would consider 4 or 5 people in the household. So they have these guidelines and restrictions depending on the number of people in the household, and also a certain income restriction. Please always keep that in mind, because it's not automatic just because the programs are available that you automatically are eligible. No. Households who have higher income limits, they tend to give those people the benefit of the doubt, just depending on what the income is. And also, you have to take all these things into consideration. Now, also in the state of Maryland, depending on which county you in, is going to determine the household income limitation, because each county is different as far as the taxes are concerned, also what the average household income is as well too. That's why it's always critical for a person to speak with a lender who can go over these steps and to see if a person qualifies or not. Never eliminate yourself when it pertains to the program, but also take into consideration that most programs have an income limit restriction, and depends on where you're purchasing the property. Also depends on if you own property within the last 3 years. And then with some programs, your credit score has to be slightly higher than the minimum lender require. And what do I mean by that? I mean, most lenders nowadays require that one person's middle score is 640 or higher. That's the average for most lenders. Now, with some programs, your credit score has to be 660 or higher. It really depends on the area. Again, this is why I'm saying that you need to speak with a local lender, because just like in DC, they have the HPAC, the DC Open Doors. Maryland has the Maryland Mortgage Program, which is the MMP, and they also have another program that's going on right now where they just open up with FHBL, I believe that's the initial. Don't quote me on it. Refer to a local lender. If you need a specific lender to speak with, I'll be happy to direct you to a lender. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go into the next segment, which is the house of the week, and then Q&A, which means questions and answer. I'll be right back. All right. We're going to go into the house of the week, you all. This house that we're going into has an open house this weekend. So if you're in the DC area, please stop through. This property right here is at 1265 Moore Street, Northeast. As you can see, it looks lovely. Come through. My colleague Alicia Arthur will be hosting this open house. She will be hosting it for you to come through, take a look at it. It is 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bath in the Trinidad area, walking distance from the Noma shopping area, the New York Avenue Metro, Gallaudet University is right across the street as well. So if you're in the area tomorrow, Saturday, March 21st, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., there will be an open house on this house of the week. All right. I'm going to go into my Q&A, which is the questions and answers. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you for always sending in your questions all the time. I love answering this. This is like one of my favorite segments of my show. So, questions and answers. The first question is, what issues fall outside a standard home inspection? What issues fall outside a standard home inspection? Now, please take into consideration that when you are getting a home inspection, most home inspection covers visible and accessible components, but it does not cover everything. And when I say it does not cover everything, it does not cover mold, it does not cover radon, the termite/pest inspection. It doesn't cover it, but in most cases, it is given and it is required by most lenders because they want to make sure that there are no termites with the property that you're purchasing. And then it does not cover sewer lines/septic systems. It does not cover chimney inspections, roof certification, only what's visible to the eye. It does not cover asbesto, lead paint, environmental hazard, inside walls, under floors, or hidden defects. And it does not cover pools, sprinkler systems, and things of that nature. Whenever you are purchasing a home, and if you, once you go to the home and you see certain things that are of your concern, when you're speaking with the home inspector, ask them, do they, excuse me, ask them, do they cover that? And if they don't, you can always get an add-on for an inspection. So you can get a radon inspection, you can get a chimney inspection, you can get a mold inspection, you can get a pool inspection if these things are at the home and you feel the need to do so. Now, these things will cost you slightly extra to get them, but here's the thing about home inspection or any inspection. You're not paying necessarily for the inspection, you're paying for the peace of mind that it's going to give you. You do not want to inherit a property and you have major issues that you could have found out about in the beginning once you submitted your offer. Get the inspection. Yes, it will cost you a couple of $100, but a couple of $100 is better than spending a couple of $1,000 after the fact. Don't worry about that, okay? Question number 2. Does the seller need to know if the buyer is using a grant? Does the seller need to know if the buyer is using a grant? And the answer to this is yes, because normally when you are making an offer in the beginning, the seller needs to know about any and all program, because this has an effect on the seller. Whether closing calls, whether they're going to accept your offer, whether they're going to give you closing, they need to know. And then in many cases, when it pertains to grants and as well as programs, sellers have to sign off. And also with some programs, settlement is normally longer because of the program. So sellers will wonder, okay, well, why are we not going to settlement within 30 days? And why is it taking it 45 or 60 days? And a lot of times it's the grants or the program. Now, again, sellers do need to know these things. So yes, it's typical to disclose these things to the seller. Question number 3. Does the seller have to explain why the home is being sold? Does the seller have to explain why the home is being sold? And the answer to that is no. They do not have to disclose why they're selling the house, whether they're going through a divorce, whether they want to downsize, whether, they do not have to disclose these things. The only thing that they're supposed to disclose is that there's issues with the property. For example, if there's a foundation issue, if there's been water leak in the property, they're supposed to disclose this, and that's the reason why there are disclosures when you're making an offer. You make the offer, you see what the seller is telling you, and you hope that they're being honest. But when they're not being honest and it comes out later on, sellers do end up getting sued even after a transaction if they were not honest. They have to be honest. They're supposed to be honest. Disclosure laws focus on the property and not the seller's personal situation. Question number 4. Do solar panels add value to a home? Do solar panels add value to a home? That's a great question. And I actually have a client currently right now who is looking to purchase a home that actually have solar panels on it. Now, here's the answer. Yes, they do add value, but it depends on how they're structured. Solar panels add values if the panels are owned, not leased. They reduce the utility cost. That's one reason how they add value. Now, solar panels may or may not add value, just depending if the panels are leased, because buyers assume the lease, and these are liens or financial attachments. So it really depends. Some lenders require additional approval for homes with solar panels. This can affect the deal. So you need to really talk to your lender about if you're going to submit on a home that has a solar panel, or even for sellers who are selling these homes. A lot of times I know sellers are just trying to get rid of the home and they're trying to transfer the lease, if it is leasing, over to the new buyer. But some buyers are kind of reluctant because of the solar panel. So yes, they typically do add value, but they could be a stigma against the home if they're leased. It just really depends on how much the leasing is, and also, if how much utility is being saved for the buyer. Question number 5. What can I ask the seller to pay for that will save me money? What can I ask the seller to pay for that will save me money? Great question. Now, whenever you're making an offer, what you can typically ask the seller to pay for is your closing costs. That's one thing, which normally includes lender fees, title insurance, and also you can also ask the seller to, depending on if you're a first-time home buyer or not, pay for the transfer and recordation taxes, some of it, if not all of it. You can also ask the seller to pay for repairs after the home inspection, because once you do the home inspection, if a lot of issues come up, even if the property is sold as is, you can still ask the seller to pay for those things. You can also ask the seller to pay for your rate buy down. Seller can pay for a lower buyer's interest rate. That's a huge saving. That's just like, for example, buyers look at right now, oh, I'm looking at the interest rate. I'm looking at the interest rate. Never focus on the interest rate. You can't. You got to focus on your monthly payment. But here's what a lot of buyers don't understand. You can get the seller to buy down your interest rate. For example, if the interest rate right now is 6%, 1%, they can buy it down to 5% for you. You can also buy it down yourself if you want your payment to be lower. So, and you can also ask the seller to pay for home warranties. They can easily pay for that. You can also, if you're buying a townhouse or a condo, you can ask the seller to pay for 1 or several months of your HOA or condo fees. These are things you can ask the seller to pay for. To be truthful, you can ask the seller to pay for a lot of stuff. Now, whether or not the seller is going to do so, that's another thing. That really depends on how motivated the seller is, to sell that house. If the house has been sitting for a while, most likely the seller is going to be motivated to sell. They're going to be willing to pay for a lot of things. Trust me. In some cases, they'll pay for appliances for you. It just really depends. So don't be afraid to ask for any and everything, because in a buyer's market like we're currently in, trust and believe, there are some people who are asking for everything in the kitchen sink. Don't be afraid. All right. I'm going to be right back with my topic of today. All right, all right, all right. Thank you for joining me as always. Now, right now, I'm going to go into my topic of today. And my topic of today is honoring your parents. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this topic is I see far too often so many kids, especially grown kids, that are totally disrespectful to their parents. They don't understand the sacrifices that their parents have made for them. They just think, oh, because their parents have always given them, that, oh, I can treat my parents like anything. They don't honor them on Mother's Day, birthdays, grandparents' days, Father's Day. They don't honor at all. And I just want to read something, scriptures in the Bible that talks about honoring your parents. Now, Exodus 20:12 says, honor your father and mother, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Ephesians 6:1-3 said, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honoring your father and mother, which is the first commandment, with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on earth. Deuteronomy 5:16. Honor your father and mother as the Lord your God commanded you, that your days may be long and that it may go well with you in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Basically, what it's saying is there are a lot of people on this earth who have bad luck. They wonder why they can't have no good luck. Things are always happening to them. And a lot of times it has to do with unforgiveness, and it has to do the way they treated their parents. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people who leave this earth early because of the disrespect that they have given to the ones who have sacrificed the most to them. You know, honor means highly value, respect, establishing a foundation of respecting authority. Your action versus your attitude. While obedience is an action primary for children, honor is a lifelong attitude of respect, meaning you don't have to like your parents, but you're supposed to honor them. You know, I always like to give examples of myself because everyone doesn't know my history or know my background. People see me visit my mother all the time, but people don't understand my mother didn't raise me, y'all. My father raised me. And on top of my father raising me, my father was out in the street living a double life. He wasn't always there for me. But when I got older, there were times that I felt like my father actually let me down in many situations. And I was mad at my father at one point. I didn't even want to speak to him. But after my brother Adrian, God rest his soul, who at the time was in jail, he had a conversation with me. And he told me that, dad is who he is. You can't change him. You can only accept him. And I know he didn't do what you wanted him to do, but he did the best that he could do. So you holding all this against him for what you wanted, not understanding what position he was in, how he was looking at stuff. And that kind of sparked something in my brain to the point where, yeah, I was looking at it from my perspective, not knowing what he went through. But at the same time, I also knew that the Bible said, honor your mother and your father. Didn't say you have to like them. So I would check on my father just like I check on my mother all the time, making sure that they good, telling them I love them, show that I love them. Now, again, even when my father was alive, there was a lot of things I did not like, but I honor him. My mother didn't raise me, but I honor her. And what I'm saying to so many of you out there is you're so selfish that all you think about is yourself. You don't think about your parents. You don't think about what your parents went through for you. You don't think about the blood, sweat, tears, money, time that they sacrificed for you. There's so many kids who are neglected by their parents. There's so many kids who don't even know in which they knew that their parents, but you know your parents, but you're disrespectful. Because I say that to say that I see far too many grown adults who don't honor their parents, disrespectful to their parents. And see, when parents ignore them, don't say nothing to them, y'all want to say the parents wrong. No, a lot of these kids are wrong. Because, hell, kids, to be honest with you, the parents could have aborted you. You would never exist. You understand? And the fact that they took care of you to the best of their ability and you can't even acknowledge them on their birthdays, on Mother's Day, on Grandparents' Day, You can't even acknowledge them. You constantly looking something from them with your selfish self. You're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and you're always looking for something from your parents. No, you're supposed to give to your parents at a certain age because they gave you life. They gave you the best that they could. So I say this when it pertains to honoring your parents. The command is unique because it directly connects honoring parents with a blessed and long life. This is why a lot of people don't have blessed lives. A lot of people have nothing but bad luck. Nothing can go their way. And it is tied to your parents, whether you realize it or not. And unfortunately, some people who leave early on this earth, off this earth, is also tied to their parent. I just say that to say that I wish that people would stop being so selfish and start to look out for those who really looked out for them. And I say that because there's a lot of people, especially grown children, who are so disrespectful. You keep looking for something from your parents. And I know even though I'm saying this, some people ain't gonna never change, because as me as a real estate professional, I've sold many homes where the parent has passed away and the kids get to fighting, and all some of them want is just the money. They haven't even mourned their parents. They just want the money. And it's always one or two who really mourn their parents. But the rest, they just want money. Money, money, money. Selfish. Being so selfish in many ways is the reason why you don't have the life that you want and that you desire. Because the first commandment, honor thy mother and father, so that your days will be long and you live a blessed life. Ask yourself, are you living a blessed life? Ask yourself. Now, I just want to talk about that. Everybody, please try to honor thy mother and father. Mother's Day is coming up in 2 months. Honor your mother. I don't care what she did to you. Honor your mother. That's your mother. Without your mother, you wouldn't be here. And if you love you, you should love her, because she's the reason why you're here. Honor her. Nobody said you had to like her. Honor her means respect her. Make her feel good about herself, because best believe you're going to want to be feeling the same way from your kids. And if you're not, maybe something's going on. I just wanted to talk about that real quick. Let me come back with my recap, everyone. All right, my recap is basically when it pertains to who qualifies for the first-time homebuyer program. The ones who qualify are normally anyone who hasn't owned a home within the last 3 years. People, depending on what area you're looking to buy in, whether it's DC, Maryland, or Virginia, you have to check the income restrictions and see what do you qualify for, because everyone does not qualify for the program. And I just talked about honoring thy parents. Listen, y'all, our parents always gonna get on our nerves at some point in time, just like we gonna get on their nerves. Your own kids gonna get on your nerves. You're gonna get on your sibling nerves. Your siblings gonna get on your nerves. But here's the thing: without your parents, you wouldn't be here to have a connection to anybody or anyone, because your parents are the ones who brought you here. Honor them. Like I said, I didn't grow up with my mother, but I honor my mother. My father, he had me, but he wasn't around, but I honored him. I made a choice and a decision. I hope that you also make the choice and decision as well, too. So please honor thy parents. And please don't forget to follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Threads, Snapchat, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube, LinkedIn. I appreciate you all. I thank you very, very much. You have a great and fantastic weekend, and I shall see you soon.
We sure could use the money. Time for some upgrades. We're pregnant.
Oh my goodness, I need to downsize.
We buy houses for cash as is. Damon the Agent. A name you can trust.